Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a new Road to Rank 1. We're starting the day with a PvP on Curious Mind, and here I have a build that I got showed by Neeb, I believe, and this is a 13 pylon, 14 gateway. So it's a very fast gateway, or at least 5 seconds faster than your regular gateway, and because Curious Mind is such a small map, what you often see is that your first Zealot and your first Adept can do quite some damage, especially if your opponent opens up with a 1 gate expand, which is the standard on this map. So we just send our first worker down, it builds a pylon and then goes into a gateway, and then you can actually not send it across the map. So usually you want to send it across the map to block your opponent's natural, but in this case it's actually better to not block your opponent's natural, because you want your opponent to get a very fast nexus down there. You probably can get a little bit of extra mining with that probe, and you're just gonna get double gas and throw down a cyber core the moment you are capable of doing it, so the moment your gateway finishes. You can still send your probe across the map after you build the cyber core, because there's plenty of time. Here I'm kind of debating whether I should send it across the map straight away. Then I see the timing on my gateway and I'm like, well, actually it's probably best if I just use this probe here. And that's exactly what I'm gonna end up doing. So I just built the cyber core, and I'm gonna get a Zealot with it as well. You wanna saturate your gases, that way you have enough gas to build your Proxy Stargate the moment you want to. You don't chrono boost the Zealot, because you want to save the chrono boost for your next unit, which is going to be the Adept, and then you proxy the pylon. I think this is a pretty decent position. You make it just in time, 17 out of 36. A pylon takes 18 seconds, which means that you have 1 second left over after you finish the pylon. Here I make some small errors in my probe micro, and I'm frustrated, because something small went wrong, and then I get frustrated. Send the Zealot straight away across the map. And the usual timing for your cyber core to finish obviously is about 2 minutes, and now it finished at 1:55. So we have a 5 second faster Stargate, a 5 second faster Adept, and all of these things really do add up, especially if your opponent opens up with a Nexus on the low ground. Sadly for me, I now get the surprise of a lifetime. And as you can see, I'm not too happy about it. So I'm gonna have to proxy a pylon a little bit closer by. I cancel the far away pylon. This probably means that he's playing 2 gate. I want to confirm that with my Zealot. And now my goal is to get the batteries up. If you get 1 or 2 batteries up and you get the void rate to the batteries, very often you win with this build order, because you have a lot of money compared to with a 12 pylon 13 gate, but you're slightly later as well. So there is some trade-offs. As long as you can keep your opponent in their main base, you're actually going to be fine majority of the time. So I know I'm going to be losing this Adept, and I'm not going to get a massive amount of worker damage. I mean, I end up getting 2, which is not actually that good of a trade here for an Adept. But because I get my batteries up, it's kind of okay anyway. Immediately start my second Void Ray, get 3 batteries, rally a Stalker across the map. As you can see, I'm not really building Warp Gate at home. And I'm pretty afraid of him walking on the map with 4 Stalkers and trying to find my Stalker plus Void Ray. Luckily, he doesn't do that. And I get to walk towards my pylon for free, and as a result I can start attacking that pylon over here with the backup of my batteries. So now I can start overcharging or prismatic aligning my my Void Ray. I just target a pylon because it's in a crappy position while getting healed. At the same time I want to target down as many Stalkers as I can. Obviously if there's a vulnerable pylon you always want to get that first, but if there's no vulnerable pylon it's fine to just attack the gateway, or to even go for the Stalkers, you know, if they're in range. Follow this up with a fast Robo, because eventually Stalkers start getting better than Void Rays in larger numbers, and because a lot of the batteries are far away, actually it's pretty tricky to push forward, because a lot of the money you invest in batteries isn't actually going to be used if you try to push on top of this ramp, for example. And then the Immortals just trade so darn well against Stalkers that if you get 2-3 Immortals, often the game just kind of ends. So I'm just getting more aggressive batteries at this point, getting Void Rays, Immortals at the same time, trying to target down as many Stalkers as I can as well, keeping my batteries alive by healing them with other batteries. That's almost always worth it, as long as the battery that you're healing still has more than 30 energy. Then it's worth it to heal it with another battery. Also, of course, because batteries regain energy, so keeping it alive is always better than losing it. But even energy-wise, it's still worth it if you have more than 30 energy on that battery, to try to save it with a full energy battery. Well, just moving forward really, using prismatic alignment on most of my Void Rays. I can lose a Void Ray, it's fine. As long as my Immortals stay alive, I'm kind of happy. I'm not in a hurry either. Even though it feels like I'm the one all-inning, and that's actually the case. The longer the game goes, well, not the better it gets. There are some things I'm afraid of, for example, Blink or DT's finishing, or him sending 2 Adepts across the map. But in general, the longer the game goes, the better it gets for me, because my army just scales way better. 5 Immortals against a high Stalker count still do very well, especially if there's a couple of Void Rays flying above it. Super Battery is not good enough to stop me from targeting them down, and I just get a pretty clean win here. Second Immortal pops out as well, Void Ray Strike, usually gets called, and I win game number 1 here against this Protoss player. Good start. Second game will be against Elaser. The map is Blackburn. I'm going for a hatchery block. And the game before this, I played him. I went for a glaive build order. So the thing that you always want to do with these build orders that aren't Stargate is that you kind of want to mix them up. You don't want to be a one-trick pony with those. Not always play glaive, not always play DT, or always go robo first. You want to really be capable of playing everything. So this game I decided to go for a little bit of a different opener, one that I actually don't play a whole lot, but is still, in my opinion, quite decent and a lot of fun. It's going to be the DT drop. Now, whenever you do these builds, it's always important to make them look like each other, otherwise there's no point in trying to trick your opponent. And as always, you just start by blocking your opponent's main base, or your opponent's natural, and then going into the main base to try and deny as many minerals as possible. So you try to mine, and then you issue the stop command after you try to push the drone away. That's the entire goal. It's like a little midi game at the start of the PvZ matchup that you always get to play until the links are out, which is at about 218. I usually try to leave at like 210 or 205, something like that. You can see what pops out at their natural base as well at that point. So there's a lot of things that you can do, but generally taking out as many minerals as you can is a good start. Our opponent scouts with an Overlord as well, and it's important to notice where the Overlord goes, and also try to figure out what the path of the Overlord is going to be. Like, are they going to go in after I build my first unit, or are they going to go in after my second unit? You kind of change your build order, or you change your build order, like what unit you get first, what unit you get second, based on that. Chrono Boost our first Adept here. The moment we have gas and minerals available, we throw down our Twilight Council as well. And one of the big differences between like a glaive opener and a non-glaive opener is that with this build, you don't actually tend to pull out of gas. While with most other builds, if you open with a glaive opener, you pull out of gas. And if you're not doing a glaive opener, you don't pull out of gas. Even if it's just one worker, it's kind of a big deal. I do Chrono Boost 2 of my Adepts as well, because I tend to do that when I play glaives. And that's kind of to really show him the trick. You know, it's like, hey, I'm doing the same thing again. It's 2 Adepts. Here, please, my friend, look at me. I'm doing what I usually do, and then the follow-up is still going to be a Stalker. So if he wants to scout the fact that it's not glaive, he will need to pay for that with an Overlord. And that's basically the goal of that Stalker. Throw down the second gateway, and then the moment I'm ready, I can just start walking either into a base, or I can shade out again, depending a bit on how I feel like. There's a bunch of links, so it's not going to work super well. Decide instead to go straight into the natural, maybe kill 1 or 2 links. Oh! Not the greatest fight for me. I think I end up losing 1 Adept. It's not brilliant, it's actually kind of bad in a way. I also opened up with a Prism before I got my Dark Templar. Or before I got my Gateway 3 and 4, which means that I won't be capable of warping in 3 or 4 Dark Templar at the same time, which usually is not great. A little bit of a shade back, wanting to get that unit back home. Didn't quite work out though. Warp in 1 more Adept, really trying to sell the fake, of course. Want to pick both of these up into my Prism, and then I want to go across the map with it and, well, do something useful. Get 1 more gas, always try to hide as long as you can, so I take the gas on the bottom side. You don't want to give more information to your opponent than you really need to. So if I only want to take 1 gas, it doesn't matter. I warp in 2 more Adepts here, and this is a fake. So right now I have 4 Adepts. Doesn't look like a very powerful timing attack, but he still might actually believe that it's not DTs. And then I decide to go into the main base and warp in 3 DTs in the main base, and hopefully that will work. Doesn't have any units in position. So Here come the 3DTs. Let's see if he has anything there ready for me. The answer is a fat no. Doesn't have a single spore. Hasn't even started the spore yet. Oh, actually did start a spore behind. Spore from the naturals trying to walk in right now. I'm gonna start targeting it down. Maybe I can get it, maybe I can't. And yes, I can. That spore also gets cancelled. So I'm getting some decent damage here. Need to probably start a third base. I'm starting to float a little bit of money. I'll also end up losing my prism here, which is kind of silly. I want to warp in one more DT. Actually doesn't end up being too brilliant there. Oh, another spore is coming in. I try to right click it. There is one transfuse available. I'm gonna go for it again. And now actually I'm gonna end up losing these DTs. Try to recall, and I think I get none of them back home. So not only did I lose my prism, I also lost all 4 of my DTs. In a pretty silly way. The nice thing, however, is that I also did quite a decent amount of damage. And because I see so many links and no roaches, I decided to go for charge. Need to warp in the DT in the wall. DT in the wall isn't completely secure, by the way. Sometimes, for whatever reason, Zerglings can push through. He also built a lot of links, and it's actually kind of annoying me. It's not microing this link, which means there's no scout into my main base, and also is losing a lot of links to these DTs. This Nexus cancel I actually don't care about very much, because at this point it was almost a fake Nexus. Like, it sounds silly, but I went for an 8-gate follow-up, which means this is almost completely irrelevant. Still want to build it in case, you know, I get the base up and I have a little bit of money left over, but I can also cancel it in the final dying seconds if I warp in a big wave of units into his main, because that's now going to be the plan. It's a little bit of an all-in episode, I just noticed. Just pick these games. I didn't know that was going to be the case. 1 Archon, 2 Zealots. The DTs are going to go somewhere else trying to snipe a spore. So I first go in with the prism. I warp in a bunch of Zealots, and hopefully I get that warp in off. And I run away with the prism to keep it alive. And if I can get another warp in, that would be great. There's no detection whatsoever over here. There's also no units over there. Perhaps I can get another warping in. And I do get another warping in, which is just really nice. GG gets called. And I win a beautiful game here against Elaser. He didn't have that many workers. I, of course, killed a bunch. And the early game also wasn't all that bad, even though I ended up losing a prism and a couple of DTs. Let's head into the next game. The next game is against a player called Kelsey. But this is not actually the real Kelsey. Kelsey is a Twitch chatter from Hero Marine's chat. And Hero Marine renamed one of his accounts to Kelsey. I'm apologizing for leaving, I think it was 2 games before or so, because I didn't really leave, my PC shut off because the electricity cut. We'll see if I'm gonna be capable of beating Hero Marine this time around. Been really fond of playing Stargate openers lately in PvT, especially against Hero Marine, although I believe that Hero Marine is one of the greatest early games in honestly the entire world against Stargate. His decision making is so ridiculously good that I often feel like I can't really get a good advantage against him. Like, if he feels like he's falling behind, he just throws down a 3rd CC, and if he thinks he can kill you, he kills you. And either way, it always feels like he always kind of ends up killing you. So I really do struggle with the guy. I did notice though that when I open up with straight Phoenix, the majority of the time I have an easier time staying alive, at least in the first 7 to 8 minutes. The problem, however, is that I majority of the time still die later on. But I've been doing a little bit better against him lately. I've been winning a game every now and then, where before I think it was like a 90% win rate for him. Now it's more like maybe 80 or 75. So it sounds like small progress, but it's still progress of a kind. I can't quite recall exactly what I do this game, but by the way that I'm sending my worker, it looks a whole lot like I'm opening up with a Proxy Stargate rather than just a regular Stargate. Do I get a low ground pylon here? Yeah, I think I do actually. I do get a low ground pylon here, so it's going to be a 3rd pylon proxy. This is a delayed proxy. Makes it way harder for him to scout, but it also makes it just a little bit weaker because you're going to be slightly delayed. Want to get as much gas as possible. I'm keeping my probe on the low ground to make sure he can't sneak an SCV behind my mineral line and start building a bunker. So when my core finishes, I want to start an Adept, and I want to Chrono Boost that bad boy as well. Stargate is still going to go down at about, well, actually I'm just limited by gas, so it's the same time as it would have gone down otherwise. It should be like 220 or so, 218. On a good day, you can get it at 280. I didn't have a good day. I got it at 220. Still want to send this probe back home, and now we gotta see if we can deny any type of scouting, or if he even is getting a Reaper or not. Because if he's not getting a Reaper, denying the scouting is going to be slightly easier. The only thing we need to worry about at that point is perhaps a Hellion that could show up. Potentially we can do some damage with our little proxy oracle. We'll have to wait and see. Third adept gets constructed here. Because I know that I'm gonna have a lot of my units across the map. It's good to also have some units at home. Sending my adept to scout. I want to see, hey, is there a bunker? I see no bunker. I see 2 marines at this point. And this could indicate that it's a factory before reactor. Especially now, okay, here comes marine 4 and 5. So now I know that's actually reactor before factory. Because you can't have 5 marines unless you open with a reactor before factory. So I now know for almost 100% that this indeed is that. So he starts walking across the map, and that's annoying me because I don't actually have that many units at home, and I'm kind of afraid. I see him moving. Want to hit one of these guys one more time. Hellion's also showing up, so this is a weird little move out. I see one of the mines though. Probably wanted to start dropping those, and I'm gonna get some free play over here. I lose one of the adepts before this push really kicks off. I need to pull workers, which is annoying. I see he needs one more hit on this Hellion. At the same time, I'm not controlling my oracle, and I think I flew into a mine there, the second mine that he had. Lose a couple of workers myself. He lost a lot of mining time, and also maybe 2-3 workers. I'm not quite sure if this was a good trade. I don't think it actually was, because I lost 2 adepts, I lost an oracle. Yeah, it's just not super brilliant. Trying to make sure that I don't fly into another mine. At this point I don't really believe he has a mine over there. I don't really see any mine, so I'm just gonna kill as many of these as possible. Does mean that there most likely is a medevac with a mine drop on the way, and that's what I see right now. I'm like, hey, wait a second, buddy. That looks interesting. I keep this bad boy alive, and he's gonna go into my main base here. This is actually not just a mine drop, this also has a couple of marines. I thought it was gonna just be a pure mine drop, but instead it's gonna actually take out a bunch of my workers, and it's kind of annoying with these dudes. Do manage to lift this mine, do get the kill. Hopefully also finally manage to clear this medevac, as we still see one marine on the low ground. Need to deal with that somehow. End up losing my Phoenix, and he flies away. And my second Phoenix is not going to be in time. So this was a really good trade for him. He killed a bunch of workers. He delayed some mining. He forced out another warp in of adepts, which actually is bad. People don't tend to realize this too much, but when you get forced to warp in adepts, you're delaying your secondary tech. So your first tech is the Stargate, and then the secondary tech is either the Robo or the Twilight/Forge. Sorry, the Twilight plus Forge, not slash. And that always gets delayed by warping in adepts, because you just won't have the money for it. It's kind of painful, honestly. So here we see a Cyclone and double Viking setup, and he wants to take out this thing, and I'm like, wait a second. I think I can kill this. If I just lift the Cyclone, can't I just kill it? I'm like, no, I can't. So instead I'm gonna go for the main base, actually get a couple of SCVs. In my head I killed that. Oh, here I do get a Viking, so maybe that's what I was thinking of. You lift the Cyclone, not necessarily to kill it, but just to cancel the shot. Then I do end up lifting it another time, because I realize, hey, wait a second, I can actually kill it. It does have a Viking over here, but I don't quite have the energy to lift him. I have it in 3 energy. So I figured, you know what, I just wait a little bit and then see what I can do. And then I lift it. I lost the pylon, which is annoying. My Phoenix count is never going to grow to a massive number, but I do have 3 Phoenixes on the map. He lost 2 Vikings, he lost the Cyclone, and the last few minutes have been pretty decent for me. He is pushing out as well, which is frustrating. But this would have been even more frustrating had those 2 Vikings and the Cyclone stayed alive. Pretty happy now that I did build those extra adepts. It sucks that I can't really afford more Stargate units, or well, that I don't have a Stargate to build these units from. So I'm trying to kind of delay him attacking my Nexus. It's not really working out, to be honest. And he's still just shooting it from a distance. Add a couple of extra gateways. I want to probably start healing my Nexus here, Kevin. I think I'm actually doing that. So I right-click my Nexus to make sure that it gets some extra shield. His damage output is just very, very high with this many Marines. There's no stim yet, Trying to get the kill on this army, trying to make sure that I don't die. On my Nexus, well, both of these bad boys, but he just targets down the Phoenixes very quickly. I don't actually have enough units. I need another warp in. My Nexus still is low. I have a lot of money in the bank as well, so it didn't quite produce properly. Could have built an Immortal, for example, which would have helped. Now I realize that he just wants to target down my Nexus. He gets it. And yeah, that was actual pain. Actual pain. He gets it in the dying seconds of his push. I double expand. I go into Colossi and Blink. I already have charge. The reason why I really want Blink is because I just lost all of my Phoenixes. Not only lost the base, but also all of my Phoenixes. It means that I don't have a lot of catch for drops at this moment. Just checking my worker count in the top right, making sure that I have plenty of workers. I do have plenty of workers. Also want to start getting a little bit of map control right now. And think of ways to delay my opponent in this game. Because the moment my opponent actually gets across the map and starts fighting, I might be in trouble. So yeah, I just want to make sure that he can't move across the map as easily as he wants to. That's why I'm getting the prism here. And just put on a little bit of fake pressure, basically. That's really the entire goal. Just a little bit of fake pressure. Also want to go into Storm, I think. What do I look for a Storm drop here? That's pretty cool. I think that's a cool move. Try and get back into the game with a Storm drop. That is a cool move. Not sure if I do it defensively or aggressively. I'm also lacking vision in the middle of the map, as you can see. Should be sending some units there. And perhaps even set up a run by. Now, one of the many rules or one of the many lessons from Sun Tzu is pretend to be strong when you're weak. And that's kind of what I wanted to do here. I wanted to move across the map with everything while I was really weak and kind of keep him at home, pretending to attack while I'm double expanding. This is a cool lesson. Instead, rather than doing that, I decide, you know what? I can't quite do that. I'm just going to delay his push while I'm ransacking his eco at his house with a bunch of zealots. So I have these zealots. I can run them back home as well, which is huge. So I force his reinforcements to stay home. I have a natural bit of a surround on these tanks right now. And I have a couple of Templar in this prison. I can't really straight up fight, but perhaps with a good couple of storms. Boom. Huge storms. Actually huge storms. Last storm was terrible, but all the other ones were pretty darn good. Clean up this army with honestly relative ease. And I also barely doesn't kill that prism. Don't think I had Blink quite there yet. Do have a fort base, and as long as I hold, I'm pretty happy. My prism stays alive. I still have 4 Templar. These can just go back into the prism. Do have to be careful that once Vikings come out, it doesn't become really bad for me. I think I also just finished my Robo base, so I can start Colossi production. Honestly, very proud of how I did that defense. I'm not great with Templar in a prism, and in general I'm not great with Templar, but I think that move was really not that bad. Now he's going for an army split, which does make things a little bit harder. Means I also need to start splitting army, and if you don't have Colossi in an army, it often is just extremely difficult to really properly defend. So I storm a couple of times. You see all of his mines are just standing around for banter, and I end up cleaning this this little army. I think I killed all of these mines as well, and boom, I cleared this drop very easily too. And once again, I'm pretty happy with this. My supply stayed very high. I had a good defense. My control wasn't bad. However, now I lost the prism. My upgrades, +2 armor is okay, but it's not super brilliant. I don't think I have any attack upgrades yet. He's most likely gonna be hitting me with 2-2 when I only have a very low upgrade, like maybe +2 armor or something like that. I know he now has a mine there. Still have a little bit of an army on the left side. I'm also lacking vision on the left side, by the way, which is just painful. 3-4 mines do end up basically killing me. I have a large Stalker army. I thought I already had a Robo Bay, but I don't quite have it. And I didn't really start my my cannon. I didn't realize that. Probably got blocked by another probe. Don't really have any major splash anymore either. If he had paid attention to that mine, by the way, could have lost a lot there, but he didn't pay attention, so I didn't lose a lot. That's nice. I think I have a single mine or single Templar for Storm, which is nice. But I really need Colossi at this point, because Ghosts are out already. That means that his next push is just going to be very hard to hold if I don't have 2-3 Colossi with Thermal Lance ready. He starts moving on the map. I see his army on the left side with my Observer, which means I can keep my split kind of easily. With the Stalkers I can kind of micro away. I don't want to immediately dash in with all of my Zealots. I do want to see what his movement is though. Because if I dash in with my Zealots I just get kited to death. Once again I want to kind of pretend like I'm strong over here, even though I don't actually believe in my army very much. It's a huge storm. Actually a huge storm. It's so many Marines there. So many Marines that did end up falling. I think now I really do have my my Colossi on the way, by the way, which is a big deal. I don't want to give up this area because then dropping into the main base becomes really dangerous and very scary. So instead of allowing that, I just decide to defend this area, which for now I'm doing a decent job at. I see Ghost. I think I just saw that he had 2-2 as well. But I just finished my, I think my +1 attack and my +3 armor is pretty close to finishing as well. The problem I have now, once again, is I don't have any real splash in his right side army. 2 Templar are moving over. I try to defend with my Stalker Zealot on the other side. Hit one decent storm and the other storm, well, I get EMP'd, so I don't get that one. Do end up cleaning this army, or at least pushing it back sufficiently. Trying to jump forward on the left side as well, catching these medevacs. And once again, we have a cleanup. No observer with this army, which means that killing all of these mines is going to be difficult. Start my +2 attack, start shields immediately as well, continuing the upgrade. So what started with, I think, a pretty poor position, and then me taking the double base, kind of paid off. The double expand really did end up paying out for me, paying off. But still, my army isn't of very high quality. We're 14 minutes into the game. I really only have a single form of splash right now, which is the Colossi. My storm count is very low. Don't have a sentry in both sides of the army. I'm gonna send a bunch of these Colossi to the far right side, because I felt like that army was big. I'm actually a little bit confused why I sent all 3. I think I should have kept at least one over here. He gets a hit with the mine, which is frustrating to me, understandably. Now I see one of his mines over there. I actually lose 2 Colossi, or 1 Colossi for free. Sloppy control. It's nice to have an observer with your army, but that also means that you can't see forward, unless you also have an observer over there. Now, I recall back into this base, try and get something done. He decides to boost out again. My left side army will stay alive for now. Got a couple of extra cannons trying to defend. Yeah, it's just not a very good setup from here, and I'm very slow at moving out of this base. If he would have straight up dropped into my forward base, I think I would have died. Not even sure why I'm keeping so many Stalkers here. Maybe I saw one medevac go to the top right. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I didn't see the medevacs move out to the bottom side. Just a bit of a weird thing that I did just now. I'm also kind of at a loss when it comes to map control. Like, I can't really see anything. He has mines sprawled all around. His army feels better. I think he should be approaching 3-3 at least. My disruptor count is still very low, and I'm afraid of liberators at this point. There's nothing really I can do. I'm trying to expand to a 5th. It's not quite working. He's moving forward with big ghost count. If your opponent is on Ghost Marauder and similar upgrades as you, and you don't have disruptors, you can't win fights. The Terran army trades too well with Ghost Marauder against anything that isn't disruptors. And right now I have a single disruptor, so he's just going to trade very well. At the same time, I have 0 vision on the far right side, which also doesn't really help. I have a crap ton of Stalkers here, which is nice, but I might be capable of pushing these Vikings away a little bit. That was actually a really big disruptor hit, holy crap. Killed like 15 supply with 1 hit there. The problem is just that I don't have a whole lot of mining. I don't have, honestly, a whole lot of anything. That really is an issue. No vision, no better upgrades, no good eco, not a powerful army, as I'm just lacking the disruptor count. Here comes another disruptor, or 2 more disruptors, but yeah, it's just not quite enough in my army comp. If I stabilize with a bunch of cannons, Templars at every base, and DTs on the map, that can be very powerful. Then whenever your opponent moves out and you're moving out as well, you can actually send in the DTs to clear a planetary. But if you don't have good map vision, it becomes so difficult to do something with DTs as well, because it kind of becomes a gamble if you don't know where your opponent's army is. So I'm desperately trying to set up this map vision, this map control. Get 9 to 10 DTs, and I'm getting that left side 5th base. All of that kind of at the same time. Also getting a 6th base. Oh, now my DTs get spotted. I need to blink them towards the right side and go for a different rotation. Gonna end up probably losing this position, and with that position I most likely will also lose that base. I also see something happening at the watchtower. I'm not quite paying attention to it in the real game. Templar hits big, by the way. This is a huge hit. 2 DTs being warped in. I can blink. Blink actually doesn't cancel the snipe. I wasn't aware of that. I also lose the right side base, trying to get a decent trade. And just end up losing a lot of my Colossi, but my Disruptors stay alive. My DTs meanwhile moving forward after seeing his other army on the far right side. I'm like, hey, maybe this is a chance for me to actually do something with my life. So I blink in, right click that planetary. Maybe if I can hold this base at the same time as well. So I get a feedback, then a storm. Trying to get a 5th base. These bad boys are trying to get something done as well. I don't have quite enough Disruptors to win a fight over here. But I do force a lift up on this thing. I also see there's a base on the bottom right. I'm like, hey, another base that I can pick up. That sounds pretty decent. So I decide to go in there, but at the same time he forces a fight. And as his multitasking is a little bit better than mine. Oh, hold on, that was a pretty decent hit. He's probably looking at what the DTs are doing. I'm not looking at what the DTs are doing, but yeah, all my DTs die. A big chunk of his army dies, but he has 5 base mining. I have, well, 4 base mining. He has orbital commands throwing down mules. He has a better army at this point. I'm not even maxed. He has plenty of command centers to throw around. My army is extremely weak against EMP at this point, so the game feels, well, kind of bad for me. Snipes a Disruptor there, which tends to be his preferred method of dealing with Disruptors, rather than trying to split away or micro away. What he does instead is he just EMPs and tries to right-click as many Disruptors as he can, and if he loses 1 or 2 chunks of army, that's fine, as long as he gets the other Disruptors. So it's kind of a different approach than some players will take, but it tends to be effective as long as the Disruptor count isn't too big, and you actually have decent upgrades as well, being the Terran. Trying to kind of force something here, but it's really difficult to force something when there's 6 Liberators in position. At the same time, you're losing everything at home. Yeah, he's just gonna try to walk his way in. Super Battery is helping me stay alive, and that's nice, but I did lose 2 Disruptors. I'm gonna lose 2 full medevacs there though, so at the end of the day, still a good trade for me. The problem is that I don't need good trades, I need to win the game within the next 10-15 seconds, and as long as that isn't happening, yeah, it's kind of over. So here I decide to leave. GG gets killed, 174 supply against 118, and I lose. Get promoted to Grandmaster. Nice. Alright, that's going to be it for today. Thanks everyone so much for watching. If you did enjoy, don't forget to like button, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully we'll see you all next time for a new video. Bye bye.